What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Get Nerdy. My name's Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
And welcome to another episode of Go-Go-Godzilla, the series where we go through every single Godzilla movie in the franchise to determine which one truly is
King of them all.
And today, Wyatt, what are we covering?
Today, we're covering Godzilla versus King Kong.
And as always, we're going to go ahead and start off with our history and initial thoughts of the film. I guess, Wyatt, kick us off. What are your initial thoughts of Godzilla? No, it's actually, we fucked up the name. It's King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah,
King Kong has top billing.
I thought about that as I was saying it, that I had indeed fucked it up. However, moving forward, I like it. I think it's a really fun movie. I mean, the monster scenes are fun.
Yeah.
As you pointed out while we were watching it, there's an American and a Japanese release. Mm-hmm. We watched the American release, which is the only one that I've seen. I haven't seen the Japanese version.
That's because I was actually reading up on this. The original Japanese version is, and I saw this literally exact quote, one of the worst preserved movies of all time.
Really?
Yeah, of like, I guess when they were like cutting it, they just like literally, whatever they cut, they just literally threw away, and like, it was like, and you can kind of tell even in the American version, like they would use two different kinds of like, they would use both like 16 millimeter and like 32 millimeter film. That's why like some shots were really good and clear, some shots were really muddy.
Yeah.
And so that is why widely the American version is the most readily available version.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not like a pretty pristine polished movie.
No.
It's held together with like duct tape and wire in a lot of places, it feels like. But with all that, I still think it has that kind of old, silly movie charm that we talked about before,
Yeah.
and I really like it. As far as history with the movie, I found it on eBay when I was a kid and bought it. I think I got that with King Kong Escapes.
Oh, okay.
Which is the, if I'm correct, the one with Mecha Kong in it.
Yep.
And I watched it when I was little several times, not retaining any of the plot at all because I was there for the monsters. And I think that kind of, didn't hurt me at all on this rewatch.
No.
There's not much plot to it.
No.
But what about you? What's your history and thoughts?
So my history actually runs very deep with this Kong movie. I mentioned it a little bit previously that growing up I had 4 Godzilla movies on VHS tapes in terms of like when I was initially introduced to this series, and this was the oldest of the 4. This was the oldest of the 4 that I had, and was definitely watched it a bunch. In terms of the first initial 4 I had, probably not my favorite. So like I guess if we want to run through, like the initial 4 I had was this one. I had Godzilla versus the Three-Headed Monster, which is the version I had, where he actually goes and fights in space. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, and Godzilla versus Destroyer. So like this was kind of, if I got through the first 2, the Godzilla versus Destroyer and Space Godzilla, this would have been my next choice. I still really enjoyed it, and I still to this day have a lot of nostalgia for it because I watched it a ton. But yeah, so definitely a lot of history. One of probably, for a while, had been the oldest Godzilla movie I'd seen until I watched the original. So that's my history. And then I guess, leading into my initial thoughts, I still think this is a really fun movie. I still really enjoy it. This is definitely like, compared to the previous 2, a lot, like Godzilla is already getting a lot sillier and a lot more directed towards kids, which from what I read is a decided choice. Like they decidedly started pointing this towards a more younger audience. And I think again, I love it. I love it. I think it's super stupid a lot of times, and I'm spending a lot of time laughing as much as I am kind of engaged in the monster fights.
Yeah.
旗色悪くなってきましたね。負けちゃいかん。
now, next we're going to go ahead and tackle the actual, I guess, plot, some of the key scenes, and I guess fight scenes really in this movie, because there's not a lot of, like, I don't think character scenes to speak of, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of like great character depth in the movie, which is fine.
I would say I do want to off the bat give the comment like a lot more engaging or entertaining than the character moments from Raids Again.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that's for better or worse in terms of like the entertainment I'm talking about, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it is better than Raids Again in terms of like the actual human cast. I'm not like it's not as weird as Raids Again, which sounds strange because it is a stranger movie, I think.
It's not as the human plot. Maybe we're already kind of getting a little too much into this, but like I think the human plot doesn't clash as much with the monster action as it did in Raids Again. Because Raids Again, it was very much like two different tones happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I was going to say too. Is like the placement of the scenes isn't as strange. Like it doesn't feel as offsetting as our eyes. It's
like
different.
Well, yeah, because like everything is a lot more involved. Like the plot almost never actually moves away from the monsters.
Yeah.
Which I think really works for it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess with that, the plot starts off. Remind me, how does it start off?
If I remember correctly, like it starts with them at the pharmaceutical slash TV company talking about finding a giant monster on an island that they don't call Skull Island, they call it
Pharaoh
Island. Which
yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm assuming, and I couldn't find anything that necessarily confirmed, but I'm assuming that has something to do with like rights.
Rights, yeah.
Which I don't know if at the time they were getting that into their bag about what's copyrighted to what. Is it, but like definitely, probably say it's a rights issue.
Yeah, and it probably wasn't worth whatever money they could have possibly had to have spent to get the name Skull Island too. But anyway, they're talking about finding this giant monster on said island, and they want publicity.
Publicity, because
words are hard.
I guess so. It's like the TV company that this pharmaceutical company is working with is having poor ratings.
Yeah.
And so they're wanting to boost it up with giant monster action.
Yeah. So they send this expedition to
Pharaoh Island.
Okay. I keep wanting to call it Pharaoh for some reason. Yeah. So they send this expedition crew to Pharaoh Island and to get some footage of this monster, be it real or not. He's like, find the monster. If it's real or not, bring me something.
Yeah.
So they go off on this expedition, and while that's happening, there's also an American sub that's just kind of cruising around, and for some, I guess they quit
because there's like there's a report of glaciers and stuff like that melting in the Arctic or stuff like that, and so there's I think a U.S. or
it's a U.S. sub.
U.S. sub that is kind of like searching, I guess, through the glaciers. I think they're looking for Godzilla. I could be wrong with that.
They didn't specifically say if they were looking for Godzilla, but the glaciers were melting, and that's our tie-in from Raids Again. Where they spent 45 minutes burying him in a glacier.
Which I gotta be honest, Godzilla breaking out of a glacier is to me one of the coolest entrances.
It's pretty
cool. In concept, one of the coolest entrances. Entrances, like he's made it. Like here, it's a little bit like he just kind of like pops out and wiggles his head a little bit.
It's not. In concept, it's a cool idea, but it is like he just kind of like a whack-a-mole, just kind of pops up and starts looking around, but.
Godzilla!
Yeah, and then it is kind of funny, like the American sub, like they know there's icebergs and stuff out there, and they just smash into one, like no one was paying attention.
And then they start like immediately getting flooded with water, and I think at one point they just say abandoned ship.
They're like
but they're in a
ship
submarine
in an Arctic sea,
I don't know submarine technology. I'm assuming they had some kind of raft that shoots them up, but it didn't work regardless because they ended up. I think the whole sub ends up blowing up.
I think, and then that starts that wakes Godzilla up further on the glacier that he is on, and then he's out. So then that kind of starts the plot rolling with him.
And I think that's what shifts it somewhere in here. They shift the play in from just getting footage of Kong to then getting Kong to Tokyo to fight Godzilla.
Yeah. I think it kind of seemed like that plot point, that idea of theirs came after Kong fought the
octopus.
the giant.
Yeah, we're skipping over a lot on Faroe Islands.
We
Faroe
really are.
Islands is really is a very trippy.
Yeah.
It's like a very trippy, I guess, sequence of events.
Yeah, it's a very weird, but it's also a very fun time in the movie.
Yeah.
So I guess getting to Faroe Island is kind of a chaotic start. Like the I don't want to say villagers, the indigenous people.
Yeah.
They kind of know of humanity, I guess, because they've been there. You know, the civilized society in Japan and stuff, like, because they've been there to get the berries.
Yeah.
Had some interaction.
Yeah, because in the American version, I think it would, you know, I guess I don't know if we're gonna bring these up that much. The American version, there is like weird like news reports intercut throughout explaining what's happening, and you get this weird explanation for the berries that are on Faroe Island that are used to then for juice and stuff like that. And there's like, and I guess that's also what the pharmaceutical company uses. I'm just now making that connection. I could be wrong,
I mean,
but
probably
yeah,
so.
but yeah, you get these reports explaining the berries, and that's when we get to Faroe Island and meet the, as you said, the indigenous people.
Yeah.
And yeah, very kind of.
It's a weird. It's a bit of a rough introduction. Like, they're not totally cool with them, but they don't scare them right off the bat, you know.
Yeah.
And so they start giving them, like, they barter with them, and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're cool. And they give them like a
Transmitter, like a radio.
Yeah, some kind of a radio that's got a song playing on it, and they think that's pretty entertaining. And then they go right to cigarettes.
Yeah. Oh, dude. But so like really quick, as a kid, I didn't understand what the transmitter was.
Right.
As a kid, I said it to you while we were watching it. As a kid, I actually for some reason always thought the transmitter or transistor. That's it, because it's a radio. Transistor radio. I thought it was a viewfinder. Like a
Yeah.
one, you know,
Yeah.
because like he looks into it at one point.
Right.
So as a kid, I was like, oh, he must be seeing something, and that's not at all what's happening. I just was an idiot, and I was 5 years old. But then then you get probably one of the best scenes in the movie of them passing out cigarettes to the indigenous people, and these brothers start sucking down these darts.
It's just, they're like. It's like a Black Friday style. Like, they just can't get to them fast enough.
And they immediately get what's going on, and they all start sparking up, and then you get this like little kid like tapping on their shoulders.
Oh, he's like tugging on their coat.
Yeah,
and then they kind of like how funny, you know, like.
Oh,
and then he keeps tugging on their shirt.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we forgot to bring candy. And then he goes, no. And like he goes, no, I want a cigarette.
That little kid,
Give him 2 cigarettes.
And he's like, don't smoke them at home.
Yeah.
And they both hand him a fucking cigarette.
And then the mom, I guess kind of like smacks the guys.
Yeah.
But just then takes one of the cigarettes and lets him keep the other
Yeah.
one.
And then she starts smoking herself.
Yeah. And dude, it's so funny watching in the rest of the background of this scene, because these guys are, like, literally, I had a note that says, like, these dudes are sucking down these darts. And, like, you see a guy immediately behind him with just a stub of, like, because it's the 60s, so everybody's, like, at this point, everybody's a professional smoker.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Oh, your mommy. You better not smoke it around home.
But yeah, then they're just kind of like looking around the island and, you know, looking for the monster and stuff. And then there's one scene where they're on a trail and a lizard or something like jumps on one of the guys, and then he starts swinging it by the tail and kind of tosses it, and he's freaking out. And then it kind of cuts back, like it zooms out, and then like he just gets his gun out and shoots this lizard.
Yeah.
Like,
not even the guy getting attacked.
No,
the guy who's perfectly safe shoots the lizard.
They could have just scurried off, but they were like, nope.
Yeah, and this eventually leads to kind of the first experience with Kong.
Yeah.
Of you kind of hear his roar, but you don't actually see him. Like, the reveal of Kong is not until you get this real disgusting scene where I guess this kid is trying to, I don't know if he's trying to get some of the, like, they like make berry juice out of the berries.
Yeah.
and this kid is trying to get some, but then an octopus comes out of like the ocean or something like that. And I think they used a live action octopus.
I think they did,
because you can see it like breathing.
Yeah, and it, like just the way it moves, like it.
There's no way it's fake.
No, it looks far too natural to be like a fake octopus. And if it is, why does Kong look like he does? And why does Godzilla look like if that octopus was fake? Like,
yeah, there's just no way it was fake.
No,
There's no way it was fake. But then you get the first monster fight, because I think somewhere in here you do get a footage of like Godzilla walking towards something.
yeah, he's walking somewhere and they're talking about it on the news, and then it cuts back to the island. But
yeah, and then Kong fights this octopus in terms of like he's like rolling around with it, and yeah,
it jumps on his face and tries to pretend that it's a face hugger from Alien for a second, and then he throws it.
or
Or
because timeline wise, are the face huggers trying to be the octopus from Godzilla vs. King Kong?
it's the original face hugger.
Yeah. And yeah, this is a very awkward action scene. It's not.
It's not great because then he throws it back to the ocean and then just starts throwing rocks at it.
Yeah. Which is
And then it just kind of and then it just kind of like slithers away. This is after all the people have thrown like sticks and fire and rocks.
Yeah. You see them like pelting the thing with like Molotovs.
Yeah, and it's not paying attention at all. But anyway, Kong shoos it away, and then that's when I get the idea that okay, hey, we could take him back
and fight Godzilla.
Yeah.
Which I actually do want to give a compliment. The shots of the woman getting like picked up by the octopus and stuff like that. It's actually very impressive for the time. Of like, it's nowadays definitely not convincing, but it's still like definitely you could see like the ambition in it.
Oh yeah. I mean they did a good job for what they had available to use and to do and stuff, and it's a good. I mean it's good. It's just not like today. I mean of course it's not today's visual effects.
Yeah.
I mean it's still pretty entertaining. So.
And from here, this is where they concoct the plan to get Kong back on a boat to Tokyo to fight Godzilla, and you get this really trippy scene of like the Kong drinking this juice, like drinking like vats of the juice while the villagers are like dancing and playing drums, and again super trippy scene.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Then you get like a dancing and a chanting ceremony.
And you mentioned this too a little bit about the drums. I remember the paint on the drums. I don't know why. I remember seeing that when I was little.
So I was weirdly obsessed with it because also at the same time that I saw this, we were both born in. Well, I was born in '97. You were '98. Mm-hmm. One of the first ever music videos I ever saw was the music video for Seven Nation Army, the White Stripes, and she had the painted drums, and it reminded me of that. And so like because of that, because I liked White Stripes growing up, I also was like weirdly obsessed with the painted drums as a kid too. I thought they were really cool. And this is one of those scenes that like, because it had probably been close to 20 years since I had seen this movie until we watched it, and like I had no memory of this scene until I watched it, and I remembered every single bit of it, like including like I did not remember I was obsessed with the drums as a kid.
Right.
But the moment I saw them, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. Just kind of came back to you.
Yeah. That's definitely.
I do. I think Kong in this movie, he makes me think of somebody's drunk uncle. Because
he's just stumbling around.
He's stumbling around. He's yelling. He's drinking this juice. And then he falls over and falls asleep.
He just punches building. He just punches walls.
And then this continues throughout the whole rest of the movie. So.
Yeah. So this leads to the I guess the next scene is they have him kind of Gulliver traveled, like tied up and being tied behind a boat. Something that we had seen referenced in the 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong. Mm-hmm. Him talking about, and then like he's strapped with also dynamite and TNT in case he wakes up for some reason. And we get the introduction of my favorite character in the movie. We get the TV exec. He's like the pharmaceutical executive and then the TV executive.
Yeah.
They play very fast and loose, whether it's a pharmaceutical company or a TV company.
Well, I think it's both. He just happens to do both jobs, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Or he owns the both. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what he does.
Yeah, it's very, very much a slapsticky, very much a like
Goofy as hell.
goofy as hell. You get him like you get that hilarious scene of him like resting on the dynamite like switch.
The plunger. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know about you. Also, going back to watching this as a kid, this movie made me want to like. So is it called the dynamite plunger?
I've always called it a plunger.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I always called it a switch. So, but like I still to this day have a very much like childlike desire to do that to set off dynamite.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and I think that comes from this movie, but like then watching like westerns with my grandpa all the time, and they would be like, "Oh, they're gonna blow up the train tracks and
boom," in like Looney Tunes.
Yeah, and Looney Tunes.
Yeah, definitely. But, and so eventually Kong starts waking up, and when they actually finally hit the switch, it turns out the dynamite's not effective, does not go off, and these brothers start blasting.
But yeah, they just start
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang! All right.
firing away at this dynamite, and then they blow Kong's head, like they blow him up.
Yeah, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So like literally they set him loose towards Tokyo. And then at this time I think also Godzilla's on his way towards Tokyo. They kind of are saying like, this is, again, we're getting intermittent like news reports of like Godzilla's gone back under, and then like he's actually coming back towards Tokyo, and it's like part of the explanation, I guess. This is like where you start to get a weird explanation of Godzilla's origins. I don't know if it's just the American version or like they were trying to re-explain of like, you know, Godzilla is actually this monster that's lying dormant, not necessarily like creation of nuclear power.
Yeah, it was very much like speculatory sounding. Like they weren't, of course, they weren't sure 100% how he was made, but they didn't seem to like reference the 1954 movie at all. Not
in these like American recuts, or really, I guess in the response to, because you mentioned while we were watching it, like they don't know, even though they fought Godzilla twice and technically won both times.
Yeah,
they don't know how to handle
like,
Godzilla.
Yeah, like and this could just be because this is an American cut, so it could have been, I don't know, reshoots, re-edits, rewrites, whatever. But like even like they're corresponding with the Japanese media throughout these little news segments, and the Japanese media like acts like they've never seen him before, like they don't know anything about him. Like he didn't attack Tokyo, like he didn't attack that fishing town from raids again, like Anguirus wasn't a thing, like they just had no idea, which is kind of weird. But,
and you know, kind of like a weird little like tidbit about the actual production of it, of like every time the American reporters are talking to the Japanese reporters, they're like looking off camera as if the guy's like right there, and then the Japanese guy's like talking on a headset as if he's in a completely different room. So like they're also just produced really, really strangely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
But anyways, let's get back to the actual monster action here. Eventually this leads to kind of the first confrontation. So I guess the first real attack of Godzilla because the two main dudes we're following, I don't have their names, I don't know if you do, but like
I had them somewhere wrote down here.
But like the two main characters are like a brother and a boyfriend of this girl who there's then also reports that his plane was shot down, but it turns out he missed the plane, and so she's going to try to track down her boyfriend. And it turns out, as she's on the train to track down her boyfriend, Godzilla shows up and starts attacking her train. Right?
No, Kong attacks her train.
Is that Kong?
That's where he gets her out of the train.
Then where does she... But she... No! Oh.
Or is there two train scenes?
There's two different train scenes. So the first one is when she's trying to track him down. He learns about it at the apartment, and then it goes drives to her in the Jeep.
Oh yeah, because they take everyone off that first train.
Off that first train,
Okay, yeah, you're right.
And so then that one later is when they're evacuating Tokyo.
Yeah.
So that's a bit later.
Yeah.
But It doesn't. There's a lot of train scenes in the. You know.
You're about to have a visitor.
Oh my god.
Sir. Sir. No.
It's pretty much all gone if you want. And pretty much all of this leads to the first confrontation of Godzilla and King Kong. They just kind of meet in the middle of like a forest, and Kong like throws rocks at Godzilla, and then Godzilla hits Kong with the heat ray pretty quick.
Yeah.
And Kong just pretty much accepts right away that he can't fight this, so he walks away.
It's like the Revenge of the Sith when like Godzilla has the high ground because he's up on like
Yeah.
a mountainside, and it just hits him with the atomic breath a couple times, and then Kong he just kind of backs up and then looks around and then turns around and then just walks away.
Yeah.
It's so anticlimactic.
But then the crazy thing is actually like the scene itself, yes, anticlimactic because
But it's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And then the Kong suit catches on fire. Like the whole time, so when they hit the heat ray, they actually I guess hit flames. And start burning part of the set.
Yeah.
Because then the suit legitimately is like smoldering, and like I kind of like I'm impressed because I don't know if it was done on purpose, but like stayed in character while putting the fire out. He was like. And immediately Kong was like, I can't handle this, I'm out.
Is that for me, Chief?
Yep. And then again, I think this eventually kind of leads to here in the military starts souping up its defenses. They try to lay down like some gasoline and TNT to destroy Godzilla. This is really the start of Godzilla becoming this like indestructible, like unstoppable force, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because they try to bury him with dynamite and gasoline, but he immediately gets out and starts marching forward. But then he does get caught up in some power lines.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredibly inconsistent.
It is.
Because in the first movie, he runs into power lines and goes, no big deal, and melts them. But I think the reason, and I was talking to you about it earlier, I think the reason they made the power line such a big deal is because when this movie was initially written, it was not written as Godzilla versus King Kong, or King Kong versus Godzilla. Do you know what it was written as, Wyatt?
Well, only because you told me earlier. I've never heard this before in my entire life. But it was King Kong versus Frankenstein, right?
Yes, that's correct. Because it was originally pitched that because again, like kind of in this time period, I believe before this, they did like Frankenstein versus
the Wolfman.
Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, and so I think the guy who wrote this, I think his name was like John Beck, who had written this, had then went to Toho, approached Toho about it, because like he went to like Universal and they weren't really interested in the actual fight, and then he went to Toho about it, because Toho had actually been interested in writing or interested in making Kong movies for themselves. And so eventually, like that's how it gets to them, and like eventually it was just rewritten for Godzilla to take the place of Frankenstein, which is like kind of interesting because you can tell again like the theme of electricity and stuff like that, which is very much if you've seen Frankenstein, Frankenstein's or electricity is part of that story quite a bit. And this then cuts to Kong pretty much tearing through their the same power lines that warded off Godzilla, and you kind of get Kong attacking the city of Tokyo as like they're trying to evacuate Tokyo, and this is kind of where you get a little bit more of the drunk uncle scenes, because like Kong just like is stumbling around Tokyo. He's not destroying anything like consistently, but like he's just walking around and looking and like surveying the buildings, and then he just zeroes in on this one building and just punches down for no reason.
None at all.
Dude, and it was I think it was the most you and I laughed in this movie the whole time.
think
just
so.
like, yeah. And then he does notice, like, because they're loading the trains, and that's when you get the second train scene with the girl on the train.
Yeah.
Sorry, I still don't remember her name. But as Kong, and this scene was crazy because Kong starts picking up the train, and they just show people jumping out. Of like people are jumping out and falling out, like until she just happens to be the only one that like.
Yeah.
And then in Kong fashion, he is infatuated with her and like drops the train and picks her up and is like ends up kind of as a reference to the original King Kong. I don't know the name. I don't know if it's a significant building in Tokyo, like an actual building, or if it was just a miniature
Yeah, I'm not sure.
they built. I'll have to look into that. I should have looked into that already. I apologize. But yeah, you get the reference of him on top of the building with the damsel in distress in his hand, and then this is where you get somehow like the pharmaceutical execs and his two employees are in the tents with the general.
Yes, somehow.
and they, concoct the plan to, as one of the employees, I think the girl's boyfriend is like, get my drums.
Well, and then it was kind of funny too. Like before he was like, get my drums. Like the general was like, get ready to open fire, and one of the troops is like, oh, something we can't get or something. And the general's like, you're gonna listen to me. And
Yeah.
the troop is just like.
Yeah.
And then backs away, and then the boyfriend or the brother, which one? I think it's the brother. Like I think it's the brother. Like
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, because he just busts through this tent where they're conducting battle plans, and there's a general and all this stuff going on in the defense of Tokyo, and he just somehow gets through into this thing. Like goes up to the general and is like, "Wait, no, my sister." And then the general's like, "Oh, binoculars. Let me see. We can't shoot him." Like,
yeah.
and then the drums, yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the dudes is like, get my drums, and then somehow has a full set of the tribal drums that we were seeing playing earlier. And it's the painted ones too, so I'm not bad about it. But like,
did he rob the people though?
Yeah. And then like, they immediately get a PA system set up, and then like they mix into the missiles the juice that they used to knock them out earlier, and like explode, blow them up overhead of Kong, and then knock Kong out.
Yeah.
Somehow safely and recover the woman.
Yeah. Somehow safely he stumbles down the building.
Yeah.
And then drunkenly falls into the building and kind of slides down it and doesn't crush this poor lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's asleep.
Yep. Then he's asleep, and so this is where we then get him. We left out a pretty pivotal scene to what happens later. Happens at this moment. When we first are introduced to the two employees, they are having dinner at one of their houses with the sister girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he demonstrates this ultra strong wire.
Yeah.
By literally like ape hanging off of his balcony with the other guy freaking out, going, "No, come back in, come back in."
Yeah.
With some of the toughest looking stakes that we've ever seen.
It was.
it
was a car tire.
Yeah.
It wasn't a steak.
It led to a 5-minute conversation between us of how we take our steaks. But anyways, back to the actual plot now. But yeah, this is when you get Kong then strapped or strung up to the helicopter with the weather balloons and all that.
Not very graceful looking.
Yeah, and they end up, I guess, somehow finding Godzilla on Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
And literally...
Dude, this is my favorite scene in the whole fucking movie. My favorite scene.
Just they drop Kong off.
It's not a graceful drop. Like, they don't set him down.
Yeah.
They drop him on the side of the mountain, and then he just rolls like...
Oh, yeah. The dude in the suit for sure has a compressed spine after that.
Yeah.
Because it goes on his ass just like, bow, and then
he
slides. And like bowling ball and takes out Godzilla. And this is when we finally get the start of the final fight.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty meaty fight. It's like gotta be like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's pretty entertaining. Like, I really honestly enjoyed this whole fight.
Yeah, it's a very weird mix of like there's some really cool moments.
Yeah.
There's some really stupid, silly moments.
Yeah.
The fight initially starts out with like Kong is just getting his ass beat. This dude is not meant to be here. This is like
it's Fireworks.
Yeah. This is like a world champ boxer against just some dude he
drunk
picked up
dude.
off the street. Yeah. And like, there's literally a point where, fucking dude, Kong goes to a bowling ball goes to roll into like Godzilla's legs, but Godzilla sidesteps him, and Kong face plants into the rock.
Yeah, like he rolls smack into the fucking rock.
And knocks him out enough that Godzilla is throwing more rocks on him to wake him up, and he's not waking up until like you get this amazing moment of stop motion of Kong launching in frames at Godzilla, and then like Godzilla then I think like throws him.
He like jumps up on his tail and like springs and kicks him with his feet, and he rolls down further.
Yeah, and more stop motion.
Yeah, and then he gets more rock. Like he gets buried in rocks, and then Godzilla burns the trees around him. Like this is like some raids again. Like he's fighting Anguirus again. Like he's out for blood.
Yeah.
And he just starts burning the guy. Like,
yeah, and then this is when you get this. You get the lightning strike.
Yeah.
That powers Kong.
For some reason.
For some reason. And it gives like Kong super ride, which is, I will say this. I kind of wish this is something they had brought back for the newer series.
It would have been kind of cool.
Yeah,
some way, but
like if Godzilla in the Legendary series, I'm gonna go on this rant. Like gets so many different forms. He gets he gets his Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2s and all that. And Kong is just over here fighting people with an axe.
He just gets a longer beard.
Yeah, he gets
That's
a longer
it.
beard. He gets a robot arm. He does get he gets accessories.
He gets
I guess that's what it
accessories,
is.
yeah.
He gets accessories.
Yeah.
But still, I would love to see, and I hope I know they announced they're making a new one already. They're starting in the production, which sucks. Little side note: Adam Wingard's not coming back
That does suck.
for it, which is I don't know why they wouldn't just.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Anyways, not the point of the video. But I do hope in the next one we do see some kind of lightning action from Kong, because I think that would be a cool moment. But back to the movie we're talking about.
Yeah.
When Kong does have the electricity and running through him, he starts putting in work on Godzilla.
Yeah.
He's they're throwing boulders back and forth. I think somewhere in here is when he does shove the tree down Godzilla's throat, which is we then see that again recreated in the newer one where Kong I think shoves the axe down Godzilla's throat. Yeah. So really cool. And then of course you see I guess anything. I'm kind of rolling through everything here.
Well, he does. He shows the tree in his mouth, but then Godzilla's kind of burps it back at him while it's on fire, and then catches Kong on fire again.
Yeah. Again, and then the suit catches. You see the suit
smoldering and stuff.
which is I understand it's almost 60 years ago now at this point, over 60 years ago, but man, these guys were not looking out for each other's health.
No, they were not.
Because this, and then you get kind of more of the destruction. You get the second appearance of a Godzilla staple of destroying the pagoda, as literally almost as if the pagoda is getting in between them, Godzilla and Kong are punching each other over the building and destroying the building in the meantime.
We forgot the puppet scene. Before we get to that building, they're up on the hill and they're just fighting as hand puppets on top of this hill.
We kind of mentioned it. This fight kind of leading back to it has some really cool moments. I do think Lightning Kong is pretty cool, but you get these weird mixes of filmmaking techniques in some weird ways. I would say ambitious, but you get the two dudes fighting in a suit. You get weird moments of stop motion that almost seem like they're clay models. You then get hand puppets in the background, literally like Muppets fighting. And then you get it finishes out with the two dudes in the suit.
Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah,
it's very unique.
Definitely. I'm sure it has to do with budget reasons and what they were capable of, and really this is again I know there were other monster fights by this time. We already talked about Wolfman versus Frankenstein. And I'm sure there are other examples of it by this time. But as far as Godzilla, this is really the only second ever Godzilla fight, and this is the first one in, I think it was, because this was 62, the Godzilla Raised Again was like 55, so there was like a 7-year gap between Godzilla movies, which we did get the return of the original director, I think Ishiro Honda,
Yes.
And so that's cool. But yeah, so then kind of to wrap, I guess, the actual plot up, eventually through all this fighting and Godzilla like roaming around, it ends up triggering some kind of like earthquake that they both like roll off of the side of the mountain into the ocean.
Yeah.
And you get some B footage, which is actually, so another note about the American version, in the Japanese version, I read this, is it's just a small tremor that happens that throws them into the ocean. What we see in the American version is like a full-on earthquake with like the earth splitting open and stuff like that. That is a B footage. That's B footage from another movie. I forget the name of the movie. I'll probably put it somewhere on the screen right now. It's B footage from another movie that was added in with the American cut, which there was actually, and I guess I'll wait to get into this. But yeah, so the movie just wraps up with Godzilla and Kong falling into the ocean, and then you see Kong emerge from the ocean, and then you hear from the American reporter that Godzilla disappeared without a trace, and he wished Kong luck on his journey back home.
And then the end.
The end. Which leads me back to Wyatt. So yeah, that's the end of the movie. There's literally no other plot. Like the Americans, the people just go, oh,
Yeah.
and like that's it. And then you hear the movie end with like Kong roaring and all that. And so with that though, Wyatt, that leads me back to, if you remember 2 videos ago at this point, you mentioned a book that we both read from our school library growing up that had a lie printed into it. And that lie was, and many people probably know this already, it said in it like there was 2 different endings, that in the Japanese ending, Godzilla won, and in the American ending, King Kong won. And that's not true. There's only the one ending. The difference is who roars. Because in the Japanese version, Godzilla roars. In this one, Kong roars. But it's really meant to be like a stalemate. So
That's crazy.
Yep. So, and yeah, that's the plot to Godzilla versus, King Kong versus Godzilla. And that is, like I said, the plot of King Kong versus Godzilla. Wyatt, before we've wrapped this up, what are your kind of final thoughts for the movie? Anything that we didn't go over, or anything that you wanted to specifically shout out?
No, I think we covered everything I wanted to cover and stuff. I guess final thoughts with it. I really do enjoy this movie. This is one that I would watch again. Maybe not like, I wouldn't sit down and take it too seriously, but it would definitely be something I would have on in the background while, I don't know, if I'm cooking or drawing or whatever, I would be very happy if it was on TV or something or whatever, I like it a lot, so.
Yeah. Oh, and for me, this is definitely a sit down and have a ridiculous movie night of full on popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
And, we had a couple pizzas ourselves. Yeah. And I would definitely love this. One thing I do want to give a big shout out to, we didn't talk about, we kind of said, Kong looks pretty goofy. I think at certain times you get the close-ups, he looks like the abominable snowman from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
But I think the Godzilla look is awesome, because this is the first you kind of get of what we know as the classic Showa look, a little less slender than he was in Raids Again.
Yeah.
And kind of a little bit more of an actual character to him.
Yeah.
And we'll see this suit for a few movies going forward.
There was one point I wanted to make that I thought was kind of weird, and I think it does persist through some movies, but he flaps his arms
yes,
a lot for some reason, and I don't know what. It's weird. It's too much in some scenes, but it's also kind of funny.
That is because they actually the Toho executives gave the director Honda a note that they want the monsters to be actively more silly and animated. because like they knew they were going to start directing this more towards kids as a series.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Which like the Ishiro Honda has actually said like he wasn't a huge fan of that because he thinks like that the entertainment factor is the fear and the tension you feel with the monsters. But yeah, that's why. And yeah, I definitely think it's it's definitely not his goofiest celebration.
Oh God, no.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But one thing I actually did want to comment on is we mentioned some of the American edits. One thing we didn't mention is the soundtrack. The American soundtrack is actually not what the original soundtrack was from like the Japanese version. A lot of it is actually from like libraries, not like public libraries or anything like that, but like music libraries that Universal had and stuff like that. Like a lot of the music is reused from like the Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff like that, which is why we don't get the original Godzilla theme song throughout this at all. And so yeah, that's kind of part of the reality, which I do think is kind of a bummer. But then like that's also why it's kind of a more Western in terms of geographic Western sounding.
Yeah.
Thing.
That makes sense.
And I did read kind of one last little interesting fact is I did read like there is still a bit of satire included in this movie. That like it's definitely not a serious, like we kind of already mentioned, this movie is definitely the series stepping in a sillier direction. I think a little bit more of a fun direction than like Raids Again and even the original 54 one. But they still like the satire, and it's kind of obvious when you're told is like he's satirizing the, I guess, like TV and like the pursuit of like ratings and stuff like that over actual like like I don't know, like art and like making actually like good products and stuff like that. That's why it was like a pharmaceutical rep also who was just trying to make more money as opposed to actually making good products and stuff like that. So there is still a bit of that satire in this movie. I don't know if that really, so that is kind of cool that like he is managing to, I think, continue that some kind of message with these movies as opposed to just like devolving them.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And now that brings us to, I guess, the point of the video. We're going to rank this movie. The current ranking as it stands is number 7, Godzilla Raids Again. Number 6, Godzilla vs. Kong. Number 5 is Godzilla 2014. Number 4 is GXK, The New Empire. Number 3 is the original Godzilla 1954. Number 2 is Godzilla King of the Monsters, the 2019 version. And number 1 still remains Godzilla -1. Wyatt, I actually haven't thought about this yet. Do you have any idea of where you want to rank this?
Yeah, I think I do. I do. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go first, because I might agree with you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this at number 7 and move Raids Again to the bottom.
Okay, so but not above the new 2021, the new Godzilla vs. Kong.
I almost did, but I think I get a little bit more excited, like with the fight scenes and like the music and the new one and stuff. So I get a little bit more pumped up with the new one. I think I would find myself watching the new one a little bit more maybe.
Yeah,
but it's not by a big margin. It could pretty easily have gone the other way.
Yeah, and I think ultimately there's nostalgically this carries a lot for me, and this is definitely going to be, I think I would say almost as consistently more entertaining than Godzilla vs. Kong, if I'm being honest. But that being said, is like the best part of this movie, King Kong vs. Godzilla, is the fight scenes. But the Godzilla vs. Kong ones, unfortunately, just with the modern technology and the ability to kind of choreograph what these monsters are doing in these fights, it ultimately just kind of makes for more entertaining fights, which is I think what we're gonna be coming back to a lot of these movies for. So I think ultimately I do agree. Number 7 with Godzilla Raids Again, falling all the way to number 8. So with that, the new ranking is Godzilla. Number 8, Godzilla Raids Again. Number 7, King Kong versus Godzilla. Number 6, Godzilla 2014. Number 5, GXK, The New Empire. Number 4. Am I getting that wrong?
I think did you skip over the 2021 one?
And with that, the new ranking is number 8, Godzilla Raids Again. Number 7, Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla. Number 6,
Yes.
Godzilla vs. Kong, the 2021 version. Number 5, Godzilla 2014. Number 4, GXK, The New Empire. Number 3, Godzilla 1954. Number 2, that is Godzilla King of the Monsters. And number 1, we still have Godzilla -1. Keep following us to see if I guess anything beats out Godzilla -1 for the number 1 spot. Next video, we're not quite yet doing another Godzilla movie. We're actually going to be doing another bonus video covering the original 1933, I believe, King Kong movie. So stay tuned for that. And then after that, of course, the next Godzilla movie. After that, the next Godzilla movie we're going to be covering is Godzilla versus Mothra. So please keep following us along. We will return shortly with that. My name is Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
Please like and subscribe and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Boom. Right. That's cooking with peanut oil right there.
Don't quit. Oh, that Kong. He's chicken.